Former England player Monty Panesar and the current Australian captain Steve Smith, the power between them seems to get uglier by the day. Well, of course, just to give you a background, the fire was ignited by Monty when talking like a television expert or an expert on the sidelines before the Ashes started. He mentioned that the English players as well as the English media would do well to remind Steve Smith of the infamous sandpaper gate controversy. Of course, those were mind games that we oftentimes see former players indulge in ahead of the Ashes series. It happens from both sides. Australian players also do it. The English players also do it. But for a change, this time, the Australian captain reacted to it. He came on the press conference on the eve of the first test match, and without really anyone prodding him, he brought that thing up in the press conference. Of course, he was asked about those comments, but then he took a dig at Monty Panesar, reminding him of that game show that he had appeared in many years ago, Mastermind, where he made goof-ups like, he didn't know that Athens wasn't in Germany. He did not know that America was not a city but a country. So those errors that he made on the Mastermind show, Steve Smith was quick to retort and remind Monty Panesar of those particular errors that he made. You asked me personally, I thought that was a bit below the belt because first things first, Monty is talking like an analyst who's a retired player, and as I said, it's very common for former players to play these mind games. Steve Smith, on the other hand, is a player who's still playing in the Ashes, and I think it was ill time for him to get involved in this verbal. Secondly, what Monty Panesar said pertained to an incident that happened on the field, whereas Steve Smith what about things that were off the field, and as I said, I think were a bit below the belt. But if you take a look back at history, and that's what I feel, it was a bit rich coming from Steve Smith, reminding Monty Panesar about the naive mistakes that he may have made. Why do I say it's a bit rich coming from Steve Smith? Because it's not that he's not made goof-ups. There was a time when he was in India and he forgot the difference between Rajkot and Indore. He didn't know which city was Rajkot, which was in Indore. When he was in Rajkot, he said, oh, happy to be in Indore. So he's made those errors too. There was this one time he was asked about, playing in the IPL, and he said, I love playing, this in this Indian league, which is called the Big Bash. So he actually could not differentiate between the Big Bash and IPL, and said that on one occasion too. So just pointing out a few goof-ups that Steve Smith has done too. I mean, nothing beats what he had done once. He had gone out to an event with his that time fiancée, now his wife, and said, I had a great time with her. Just that he didn't know his own wife's Twitter handle, and actually tagged somebody else who probably shared the same name, but he did not know his own fiancée's Twitter handle, and that was a major goof up that he indulged in. So just to make this point, it's not that Steve Smith is the smartest cricketer going around. For him to point out few errors that Monty would have made, I thought was a bit rich. But then to the point about the initial bits that were pointed out by Monty Panesar, then retorted by Steve Smith, I think Monty himself said it best when he said that, listen, both of us made mistakes. My mistakes were off the field, but Steve Smith's mistake were on the field. And I think that is the distinction that one needs to make, because the entire thing started with cricket. It's about cricket, not taking personal pot shot. While Monty, and that's not the only mistake that Monty has made off the field. We know of the infamous pub incident as well, but on the field, he wasn't found guilty as Steve Smith was of almost cheating in that sandpaper gate for something that he had to pay a price for as well, where he was taken off, he was taken, that Australian captaincy was taken away from him. Not only that, that wasn't the only incident where the word cheat could have been associated with Steve Smith. If you remember, I think Monty was kind enough just to remind the sandpaper gate. Folks in India would remember that 2017 BGT, where in Pune they were blatantly cheating, asking the dressing room to tell them whether to take DRS or not. It was very convenient later on where he says it's a brain fade moment, but Virat Kohli almost alluded to it as cheating. So Steve Smith on that account also has been a repeat offender, and he should then be looking at who he is actually pointing fingers at. And remember, Monty then has nothing to lose. He's not playing. If anyone who has anything to lose, it is Steve Smith, because all this pressure is going to add on to the entire Ashes series. With itself, that entire series comes with a lot of pressure. I mean, what would you want to be known as, or what is it that you'd like to be referred to? Naive? At best you can call Monty Panesar dumb or naive, but in Steve Smith's case, you can actually point a finger and call him a cheat. I think that is the distinction. You'd rather be called a naive than be called a cheat. You let us know what you think of this entire controversy. Give us a like on the video if you enjoy our content, and as always, don't forget to subscribe to Sports Today.